Good morning, salam, distinguished guests, esteemed faculty colleagues, students, and friends joining us from all over the corner of the world. It gives me immense pleasure to address you all today. Participants who are there in the hall and other viewers who have joined us virtually, I welcome you all. I wish to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the organizer of this 8th International Conference on Media and Information Literacy for curating such a timely and globally relevant dialogue and inviting me as a speaker at this prestigious conference. It is also my honor to share the stage with two exceptional figures, Professor Arthur, whose work has profoundly shaped our understanding of semiotics, mass communication, and cultural media studies, and Mr. Sattar Hashmi, the Honorable Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Information and Communication Technology of Iran, whose vision continues to inspire the region's digital and media transformation. To all the attendees, educators, journalists, students, and citizens, thank you for investing your time in exploring one of the most urgent challenges of our era: how to sustain truth, ethics, and trust in a world dominated by information overload and synthetic content. Today, I invite you to reflect with me on how media and information literacy can evolve to remain relevant and proactive in the age of artificial intelligence, deepfakes, and misinformation. We live in a paradoxical time, an age of limitless information, yet growing confusion every second. Millions of video, images, messages compete for our attention. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement, not understanding, curate what we see, and more certainly what we believe. The consequences are visible across democracies, education systems, and social life. From election interference, conspiracy theories to vaccine hesitancies and online radicalization, misinformation has become a global epidemic. In such a landscape, media and information literacy is no longer a classroom concept, it is a civic survival skill. The Council of Europe once described the media literacy as the compass that helps young minds navigate the digital public sphere. But in 2025, we must broaden that definition. MIL is the compass for all citizens navigating and algorithmically mediated societies. It equips individuals to question, verify, and contextualize information to understand how power and persuasion operate in the media ecosystem and to participate ethically and responsibly in the digital commons. Without these capacities, truth becomes negotiable and democracy is fragile. That is why MIL is not an optional, it is foundation for sustainable civic life in the digital era. To appreciate the urgency, we must map evolving disruptions, reshaping the media environment. First, the sheer scale and speed of content creation have outpaced our human capacity to evaluate. Generative AI tools can produce hyper-realistic video, clone voices, and fake news articles within seconds, blurring the boundaries between genuine and synthetic. Second, there is a deep opacity in algorithm creation. The majority of what users see online is determined by black box systems driven by commercial logic, popularity, emotion, click value, rather than public good. Third, deepfakes and synthetic media have eroded the evidentiary power of image. We now need literacy not just in reading news, but in decoding pixels, sound waves, and code. Fourth, echo chambers and polarization thrive in this environment, reinforcing biases, dismantling shared realities. Fifth, the attention economy monetizes outrage and conflict, rewarding virality over veracity. And finally, we face digital inequality. While some societies develop advanced fact-checking ecosystems, they lack even basic access to literacy programs, making them far more vulnerable to manipulation. So in this kind of media ecosystem, it's no longer linear or transparent. It's dynamic, data-driven, often deceptive. This calls for an expanded interdisciplinary model of MIL that combines critical thinking, digital fluency, and ethical awareness. Next, we have the new dimension of media and information literacy. Traditional MI frameworks focused on recognizing bias, decoding advertisements, and evaluating sources. But today, information landscape demands a constellation of literacies working in tandem together. Critical media literacy uh, to analyze ownership, ideology, bias in media systems, and to uncover the political economy behind the narratives. Digital and technical literacy to understand algorithms, data mining, and platforms architecture that shape what we see and share. Ethical literacy to respect privacy, consent, and truth in creating and disseminating media. Transmedia literacy to read and produce across formats, from memes to podcasts, from short videos to VR environments. Civil and participatory literacy to engage constructively in the public discourse and collaborative in knowledge creation. AI and synthetic literacy, that's the newest frontier, to detect, contextualize, and critically evaluate AI generated or AI altered content. These literacy overlap and interact. Together, they build not just informed consumer but responsible digital citizens who can think, question, and co-create meaning in complex media worlds. MIL, therefore, is not just a defensive shield, but an empowering tool, turning passive audience into active agents of truth. Next, we have synthetic media. Scholars have begun to refer to this synthetic media as digital plastic. Just as physical plastic transformed the modern world, cheap, versatile, and omnipresent, AI generated media has become equally pervasive in our information environment. But like plastic, it is also leaving residue. It clutters the digital ecosystem, pollutes public discourse, and erodes trust. The metaphor teaches us two lessons. First, abundance without accountability leads to pollution. Second, the solution is not just rejection but responsible innovation, recycling, labeling, and transparent use. Critical AI literacy must thus be taught, like environmental education, to help citizens disconcern with what is human made, what is synthetic, and how to mitigate its harms. Students should be taught not to fear generative AI but to interrogate it. What dataset trained this model? Who benefits from its use? How might it mislead or exclude? By framing synthetic media as digital plastic, we encourage mindset of sustainability, stewardness, rather than panic, a way to balance creativity with caution in the digital ecology. So that's the reason we equated synthetic media with the plastic. Bias framing and transparencies. Every piece of media carries bias, not just malicious but always meaningful. From word choice to camera angles to editorial selection, media messages are shaped by power and perspectives. A key skill of MIL is learning to ask who created this, why was it produced, what or who is missing from this narrative. In the AI era, bias also lives in algorithms, in datasets that reflect historical inequalities, design choices that privilege certain voices. Recent experiments show that annotated bias cues, highlighted emotionally charged or polarized words, can dramatically improve user ability to detect slants. When audience see bias usually represent, they become more aware and reflective. Thus, transparency through clear labeling, open data, algorithm accountability must become a new ethical baseline for journalism, tech companies, educators alike. Without transparencies, literacy becomes guesswork. Critical and ethical literacies. Critical literacies without ethic risk cynicism. Ethical literacies without critique also risk naivety. Together, they form the moral and analytical heart of MIL. Critical literacy trains the mind to question, to examine how power, ideologies represent operate, and representational operate. Ethical literacy trained to concise, to value truth, empathy, fairness in every communicative act. For example, teaching students to fact check a rumor is critical literacy. Teaching them to consider how spreading it might harm somebody's reputation is ethical literacy. In an era where virality often trumps veracity, these two literacy reinforce one another. They create citizens who do not detect misinformation but also choose not to amplify it. This union of intellect and ethical transforms MIL from defensive practice into a humanistic discipline, one that nurtures not just critical minds but also compassionate communicators. Educational strategies. So how do we translate these literacies into real classroom and communities? Integrate MIL across curriculum. Do not limit it to media studies. Embed it in history, science, language courses that all learning becomes inquiry based. Adopt experimental pedagogy. Let students analyze and create media artifacts, podcasts, infographics, social posts by reflecting on the credibility and ethics. Teacher empowerment. Many educators lack confidence in digital pedagogy. Continuous training and international communities of practice can bridge this gap. Peer learning. Encourage collaborative verification projects, cross-institutional challenges where students jointly identify manipulative content. Assessment reform. Evaluate not only information recall but analytical reasoning, reflection, and ethical judgment. Ultimately, MIL must move from one-off lesson to a long-term competency cultivated through active inquiry, creativity, and participation. Policy and collaboration. For MIL to thrive, it needs institutional and policy support. Governments and universities must treat it as education infrastructure, not just optional enrichment. Policy framework should mandate MIL inclusion in school curriculum, teacher, and in even teacher education. Time companies must disclose algorithms, flag manipulated content, and support MIL campaigns. Cross-sector partnerships. Connecting media houses, NGOs, and academia can build inclusive literacy ecosystem. Regional collaboration across Asia, Middle East, Africa is essential to share culturally grounded resources. In India and several nations across the world, we see the early emergence of such alliances where educators, regulators, journalists co-develop MIL toolkits suited to local context. Policy, pedagogy, and participation must reinforce one another for MIL to sustain impact. Case illustration. Let's see some examples. Let's now turn to some inspiring international models that embody the principles of MIL in action. University of British Columbia Deepfake Detection Challenge. At the University of British Columbia, students participate in a curated, structured classroom exercise to verify deepfake video using a step-by-step checklist, diverse image searches, frame-by-frame video analysis, cross-referencing with credible sources. Students learn to debunk deception. It is an engaging way to teach technical forensic and critical reasoning together. MIT Media Labs Detect Fakes MIT Media Lab developed an interactive platform inviting students and public to test themselves on identifying fake versus real videos. Participants receive instant feedback on their accuracy and then learn subtle cues, unnatural blinking, inconsistent shadows, lip sync mismatch, distorted reflection. It turns learning into a game, illustrating how active participation deepens awareness. In India, there was this program called BBC Young Reporter India program, where was a collaboration between UK and India collaboration. Here, BBC UK initiative, this was almost reached 8,000 students across 120 schools in India through 50 trained facilitator. It encouraged young people to produce verified ethical news stories reflecting their communities while learning to identify misinformation. The success of this project lies in cultural adaptability, global tools, relevance, and their usage in the local communities. News Wise, a national program in the UK. This partnership between Guardian Foundation and National Literacy Trust has generated impressive data. Students double their ability to distinguish fake from real news, almost 32% to 67%. The share of students scoring 0 dropped from 34 to 7%. Confidence in judging credibility rose from 80%, rose to 80%. Sustainable weeks later. Importantly, students begin verifying source more often than a real behavioral shift. There's another example from India. A student built AI platforms called Detect at Raisoni College of Engineering in Nagpur. 4 undergraduate students created this tool called Detect, which was an AI-based platform that identifies manipulated images, audio, video with 90% accuracy. It shows that how student innovation can turn MIL from awareness into applied action. By building these tools instead of merely studying fakes, learners became architect of truth. Together, these initiatives spanning continents and cultures affirm the media literacy works best when critical thinking, technology, and creativity converge together. So now what can we do? Call to action and vision for the future. As educator, researcher, our mission is to ensure that MIL evolves as rapidly as technology itself. Our call to action is fourfold. Reimagine frameworks, embed AI literacy, ethical and intercultural understanding at their core, build open resources, share freely across languages, regions so that no society is left behind, collaborate globally, unite academia, industry, civil society to scale impact, model what we teach, transparency, integrity, compassion in our own media use. The vision is clear. A world where citizens can decode information with intelligence and empathy, where AI amplifies creativity, not deception, and where every student, teacher, policymaker become a custodian of truth. MIL at its heart is about empowerment, giving people the confidence to see clearly, think critically, and act ethically. As I conclude, I invite you to imagine the next decade, a time when our students will live, learn, and perhaps even love within fully synthetic realities. The question is not whether deepfakes or generative AI will exist. They already do. The question is, will we raise a generation prepared to question them? Media and information literacy offers that preparation. It cultivates discerns, met them with disappear, curiosity without cynicism. It equips us to confront misinformation not with fear but informed confidence. In a sense, MIL is the cognitive immune system of democracy. It guards against manipulation, nurtures civil responsibility, ensures that knowledge remains a public good. Our task as teachers, researchers, communicators is to make MIL as fundamental as reading and writing. It should be part of every school, newsroom, and policy framework, shaping not only what people know but how they think. Thank you very much. I've added references at the end in case you wish to see. Thank you very much.